Hi, hello. This is Model Babe again. I got another response to my previous video, which is why don't guys call back when they've appeared interested. Um, Basically, yeah, a lot of girls nowadays are bisexual, which means they like men and women. And there's a lot of really sexy girls out there. And if you do modeling and glamour modeling and lap dancing and stuff like I do, and erotic writing, as an erotic writer, I write about male and female things, but I also write about female stuff, so bisexual stories, lesbian, gay guys. I write about all sorts of stuff. So you've got to be not necessarily that way inclined, but it does help, I think, when you're writing to have a bit of insight into it. So, yeah, I would say that I've kind of got an attraction to women. When you've worked in lap dancing clubs, you've seen enough booty in front of you, it's difficult to not be attracted. But as a model and as an artist, you do have, you develop, obviously this channel, Model Babe, is all about sexuality of women, beauty of women, sensuality, in terms of their talents, so it's about pop stars, singers that are female that are doing very well, and they're charismatic, if they play instruments, or if they're artists in terms of, they could be a painter, they could be a writer. So it's about admiring all of that. And you can admire a woman and find her very attractive, very sexy, like a lot about her, and not necessarily be bisexual. But I think if women look very attractive, especially when they're a typical woman's figure and they've kept themselves in shape, and a lot of people are trying to do that nowadays. It's not all about being skinny now either, but people who are slightly sort of overweight always try to get their weight down to look more, sexy to their partner, or just in general for themselves. And, a woman that was, 5 pounds or 5 stone heavier than she was, looks much better when she's lost a lot of weight. So, women that look very attractive and very sexy can be, I suppose, sexually magnetic to some women. And people call this being bisexual, and in the other way, if a man finds another man attractive, then he's supposed to be bisexual as well, I guess. But you can find a man attractive if you're a man without being bisexual. But I do know a few guys that have said that they're totally into women, yet they've had experiences with men that would be classed as bisexual. And obviously sometimes if men, a guy and another guy get into some kind of sexual situation with a woman, sometimes they will get very close to the other guy sexually, so they may have to have, I would say, very slight bisexual instincts, and it's very difficult to know where the crossover lies. There's so much, lesbian, bisexual, threesome stuff now on porn channels, for our average teenagers who are actually experimenting in life to switch on the internet for the sake of masturbation. They want to watch something. Every other video has got a threesome where there's, a situation where there's 2 girls and a guy or whatever. And even if you're not attracted to girls or thinking about this, you will go that way, I think, because you're seeing it. I personally think it can lead you to get that way because, yeah, I would say I'm bisexual, yes. But when I was about 10, I did find my dad's magazines, and that's when I started obviously getting turned on by porn and stuff like that. But there was a lot of lesbian stuff in those magazines, girls with girls, and it started to turn me on. I think that because I'd seen it. If I hadn't seen it, I wouldn't have known that I feel that way. So I think being exposed to that kind of thing at a younger age does actually develop your appetite for those things. The same way if I'd seen stuff with guys, gay guys, at that age, I would have grown up being very attracted to gay porn. But I didn't go down that road until much later on. And then I realized I was attracted to that. Not because I'm weird. I mean, I'm divulging a lot of stuff about my personal life here, but I'm a writer, so obviously I am quite kinky. I don't mind revealing stuff about my sexuality. considering the stuff I do write about. But I guess being a woman, it's pretty normal to get off on watching gay stuff because you're watching men. So therefore, why wouldn't a woman get turned on by watching men? I mean, if men get turned on by watching two girls making out, why can't a girl get turned on by watching two guys making out? So I presume it's normal for girls to get turned on by watching gay things. I don't really know. I'm in therapy anyway, so that's the main thing. I'm getting therapy, but I'm getting therapy from myself, because the best therapist is yourself, because you know what you want, you know what you need. You go to someone like a friend who could confuse you. An actual therapist would tell you to make up your own mind and your own decisions. I personally think genetically, I haven't actually studied all this, but I did go to college and I am intelligent. I studied social biology and sociology, and I'm very spiritual as well. I am studying things like relationships and why relationships break down, and monogamy, pornogamy, something, I don't know, multiple partners, or as opposed to people just having the one partner. Relationships, why marriages break down, why people cheat, all that kind of stuff. Obviously using erotica as an alternative to relationship therapy. If people's relationships have broken down, there is a good use of different things to spice up a relationship, but sometimes the use of erotica, or reading erotica to another partner, or even acting out certain erotic scenes in the books for the sake of spicing up your sex life, could actually work. And if I was a sex therapist, I would actually incorporate that into my practice. But if a lot of people came to me as a sex therapist saying they were confused about their sexuality, and I have met a lot of people that are, who say they're not bi, but they're not sure if they are. My child is asking me a lot of questions now. She plays on computer games online where girls are asking her if she's bi, and my daughter's only 10. And I say to her, what do you say to that? And she says, no. I don't know how old these girls are. They must think my daughter's older or something. But, it seems to me everyone's doing everything now sooner. And I just personally think maybe individually, biologically, each human being has a genetic disposure for being slightly bisexual. Not because they're weird or anything. And I'm not saying bisexuality is weird, but some people obviously view it that way. But if you're on this channel, then you're obviously quite sexually open anyway. And there's a lot of people on YouTube that are sexually open, and I think that's a good thing, provided you're not, hurting anybody by it. But I would say that, there's a lot of cultures where, like in the Kama Sutra, a woman will get with another woman to prepare her for a man. That woman may not necessarily classify herself as being bisexual. Years ago, a lot of men were bisexual, and I think until they actually termed it and put a label on it, that's when people start to get confused. If you're totally just into men, then you're gay. If you're totally just into women, then you're lesbian. If you're a bit of both, you're bi. If you're not sure, you're confused. I'm apparently also, not just bi, but apparently I'm bipolar too. I wasn't going to tell anybody this, but I've been diagnosed with it since I was about 18 or something, because I used to get these up and downs. So I would go through times where I'm pretty normal, like I am now, but then I would go through phases where I'd be very, very low and very depressed. I've been suicidal a couple of times. I have actually tried to commit suicide a couple of times. Luckily, I'm still here. But I didn't want to go into that. But I got so low that it wasn't a case of snap out of it. I was actually so down that biologically I couldn't lift myself out of it, and I did actually want to die. And I fantasized about wanting to die regularly and ways of doing it. I remember once fantasizing about trying to find tall buildings and being able to jump out of them and all sorts of stuff. But and then I went through periods of when I would then get very high, but I wouldn't go from very low to very high. I would gradually exceed. I recently had an episode about a year ago where I got really high and I had to go into hospital. But there was I didn't drink anything, I didn't take any drugs. It just naturally came about because I had a very stressful breakup 2 years prior to that, and I'd been very erratic and volatile through it anyway. and was getting through it. And I was assigned special people to help from my daughter's school because they were checking us out, because obviously the welfare of my child and everything. And they did want me to go take some kind of medication, but I said I'll be okay because I did a lot of yoga. And I found after my yoga practice, I became very centered, very balanced, and very stable again. And I was spending a lot of time swimming. I took my daughter out to different after-school clubs. We mixed with lots of moms. But my mood seemed to fluctuate when I fell for some guy, which triggered me to be high. And I triggered very, very quickly. And in bipolar, you can trigger extremely quickly. I stopped sleeping, and I became more and more hyperactive. And then I had to be hospitalized. But obviously when I got into hospital, I seemed to become more hyper. So they gave me tablets, but for some reason my mood just kept escalating and escalating, and I was going from being very hyper to then being very sad, crying, and then again, and then I'd be laughing. So it was quite a emotionally turbulent time. I spent like 2 months in hospital, and then they came out, but that was like about just over a year ago now, just under a year. So, and that's the first high episode I'd had for about 10 years, I think, about 10 years. I kind of have them about every 10 years, the high episodes, and then I've had the low episodes as well, and then there's the normal ones. So they call that bipolar, but I personally disagree with that. I think there's triggers for it, such as lack of sleep, situations, diet, lack of support, all sorts of stuff. And I think when your body gets to a point where you're not sleeping for a few days, your mind is going overload, and it becomes very difficult to switch off. And I think anyone would actually become very high anyway, naturally, if they didn't sleep for really long periods of time, because you don't actually become so tired you sleep. You actually become very hyperactive if you don't sleep for long periods of time. And then, so they call it bipolar. But, because I've been categorized as that, you can put yourself into that category, and then you can read up about bipolar, and it will tell you that bipolars are this and bipolars are that, and they're prone to this, and obsessive behavior, and blah blah blah. And then you can start thinking you are all that. And I've decided to go against that. People that have a lot of these illnesses, such as depression and hyperactivity, they tend to be very creative people, because I was given a list of all the people that suffer from these mood disorders, and they are famous people such as Florence Nightingale, and there's lots of writers and authors and actors and actresses that do suffer from these illnesses. And I think people who are in the creative field have a lot of creativity, and that can make you bipolar, because your creativity is the thing that kind of can overtake your mind. And that's why you do things like yoga, to balance you out, to come away from that and stabilize you, the same way a mood stabilizing tablet would. If you can find a way to use the yoga and the meditation as an alternative for a mood stabilizing tablet, then by all means. And I do try it, but yeah, I'm taking medication now. I just take one in the evening, but they say it can become a placebo. So if you can try to find alternatives in your own life, if you suffer from depression or anxiety, which I know a lot of people worldwide are doing now because of the pace of life, it's more stressful and we're more prone to suffering. Doing things like yoga, swimming, cycling, running, and things where you can take yourself out of your own headspace is very good. If you do things like writing, which is what I do, that's another means of release, and it's a big means of therapy. If you've got issues on your mind, if you can write it out and turn it into a story, that's a very, very good way of channeling your mood, your feelings, and everything that's going on. But like I was saying, to be classified as being bipolar can make you, put you in a certain box, the same way if you're bisexual, or if you're gay or lesbian, or you're a murderer. Okay, murder is different. But then there are people who do murder people in anger, and they weren't in the right frame of mind, and they did something once when they weren't themselves, and then they get classified as a murderer after that. So what I'm just saying is there are labels that society puts on people, and it can be very difficult to remove those labels. But I think I've gone off my subject. I completely don't remember what I was trying to talk about, but I will talk about it in my next video. I think I'm just basically trying to say, no, I've totally forgotten what I'm talking about, but I remember it because I'm running out of time now, and I will mention it in my next vlog. So anyway, thank you for listening, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for subscribing and everything like that, and just be who you are and stay strong to whoever you are, and don't be confused in life about whoever you may be. Okay then, bye!